But thank you.
Yeah, I've clicked on OK, so we should be recording now. Yeah, so just before COVID, I decided to retire as a full-time professor, um, and I am today an emeritus professor, which is something that I don't know if it happens with you, but in the UK, if you've had a distinguished academic career, and my career has been 50% academia and 50% in um, industry and other government type establishments. But the university can decide to make you an emeritus professor, uh, which which is what which is what I am now. So I'm not teaching at the moment. I still do a number of online presentations for various groups, but my main work is really, I mean, for example, at the moment we're working with in fact, my youngest son and I are working with the European space group called POSSEC to develop virtual reality scenarios to test and to train early situational awareness
Oh,
for astronauts before they go out to these analog places. So they, for example, they can go to the Arctic, they can go to Hawaii, they can go. I think there's some caves in Italy that they can go to, and they practice things like how to survive, all
okay.
that kind of thing.
So it's
So
like a
that's
simulation, practice simulation, so that they know how to survive or see if they have the psychological stamina to survive in space.
in space and on planets. It's for planetary exploration. So we've just in fact my son is literally next door finishing finishing uh, a frozen planet scenario.
So
And
what is that program called, or the company that's focusing on these simulations for space and
the
planet?
company the company is called Parsec.
Parsec. Okay.
Parsec Space.
Okay.
Yeah, Parsec, as
Okay.
in Parsec is a yeah.
Is
So that's, I
that
mean, it's literally
oh, sorry. Is that specifically only for people in your country, or?
not at all. Past have been of interest to people in other countries. I mean, certainly our healthcare work and our heritage work in XR, we've had a lot of interest from other countries. The space thing, it really goes back to, I guess, my interest in space was back in 1980, the 1980s. And it was because it was in 1987 when I first experienced virtual reality at NASA. Uh, so the link to space goes back many decades.
Sure, I didn't know that that existed when I was 3 years old. I thought that it was always the future. Because 87, I know in the 80s, or let's say late 80s, when we first saw concepts of virtual reality, it would generally be in science fiction films. So it always seemed like it was something in the future. But then when I did more research and you started posting quite a few of your previous research, and I realized maybe virtual reality and simulations and let's say social experiments were probably um, prevalent a lot longer than what we would have expected. And that made me wonder just how much technology exists that we don't know about. And then when I saw that you were focused on defense and or that you had worked in that space, I figured that technology would always move faster in either the spaces that which is completely against what Carl Sagan believed, but it would generally be in places of in war, in gambling, and in porn. So that's usually where technology would work out fast, well, would speed up. So I figured if you've worked in defense or if you worked with NASA before, you would know best what actually exists, what's possible, and what technology we already have that doesn't need to be created, because you see a lot of things or a lot of innovations online, and in your mind you'd think, oh, but I thought this has been in existence forever. Because it was maybe in a
Yeah.
science fiction book that was written in the 60s or 70s, and then you come find that it doesn't exist. So then you're like, okay, how much of what we see online is just AI generated content versus real stuff that actually exists?
Mm. Well, I mean, my experience at NASA, which I mean, it's a long story, so I won't bore you with it. But I mean, I was only over there for a day, literally a day, because I was doing some work for the European Space Agency, and the technology hadn't, well, yes, virtual reality technology goes back to the 1950s, but they were really experimenting with how they could use this technology. And at the time, the technology really didn't exist as a product. They were building their own. They were building their own headset, their own glove. It was only after then that the company VPL Inc. with Jaron Lanier took it to market. But I think one of the reasons why I fell in love with virtual reality and the guys and gals at NASA was because they were looking at it from a human-centered design, a human factors. So, and certainly I'm the same on LinkedIn. I don't get excited too much about technology. Technology comes, technology goes, and technology goes quite regularly because people forget the human. People forget the humans that have to use it, which is
Mm.
one of the reasons why, for example, haptics is at a very low state of development, despite what you see on LinkedIn. Uh, Other things like, for example, smell. I mean, I'm a great believer if we could crack the smell problem technologically and from a human perspective, that would give us much more in terms of immersive experience
Mm.
than maybe even sound, or and certainly more than haptics. So yeah, I mean, there haven't been any in space and defense. There haven't been that many hidden technologies, except for things like, yeah, advanced helmets for cockpit use. But even those, going back to the 80s and the 60s, even those are quite well published. So yeah, I mean, I actually believe that from virtual reality perspective, I was in at the beginning of the what I call the headset and glove revolution, if you can call it the revolution. I mean, we're still very much behind where we should be. I mean, there have been so many peaks over the last 4 decades that it put us in developing technology to where we should be.
Well, I find it quite, because for me it's quite new, because I only started playing with VR, I think in 2020 or 2021.
Mm.
So, and when I started, I had to figure out the controllers. I even had to make myself my own manual to try and remember what buttons do what. And then each tool that I would try and play with just to try and draw would seem impossible, because you'd have these different palettes, and it would just be a nightmare. And I was like, why can't I just draw with my hands? And then luckily, that's when everything's changed, and you could now start focusing on haptics. But then, because it was like I'm new to it, so there were certain hand gestures that would seem intuitive for somebody who's been playing with this for years, but in my
Mm.
mind makes no sense. So
Mm.
I would test it out with my son, because when that at the time I think he was maybe 16 or 13, I can't remember. But the point is, even the way he would grasp the technology would be a lot faster than what I would. And I thought I would be faster because I come from the time before cell phones and before well, not before the telephone, but before Adobe. Yeah. So I
Mm.
figured
Yeah.
that I would know, that I thought VR would be a lot more intuitive for me than for him. And now, but I also worry about the because I've seen the experiments where they said people shouldn't be inside VR for too long. Like you shouldn't play like indefinitely. You should take breaks and uh
Mm.
like do you think that there's a serious risk that people could start believing or start enjoying the virtual worlds they create more than being in the real world?
Oh yes, yeah, especially with the world in the state it is at the moment. Um, this is a question that I've been asked oh so many times over the past 40 years, and I think the big problem, as you say, is it's the technology. I mean, even today, I was looking at something online where I think in the US they have shown that youngsters who spend too much time on tablets, and youngsters do spend too much time on tablets because parents think it's one way to shut them up. So
Yeah.
if the parents are stressed or whatever, give the child a tablet and put them in the corner. But they're now showing that children who spend a long time on tablets, let alone headsets, are showing significant reductions in white matter material in the brain.
Well, my
And
son and
that's
I
going to
had
cause,
this discussion actually, because he was a bit of an iPad, not really an iPad baby, but he was more of a Xbox game type of baby.
mm,
And we discussed it, and he said that if he was a parent, he actually wouldn't give his children an iPad to play with until maybe after maybe 13 or so, because he said because a lot of times you think that the security settings that you put onto the device is secure when they can't bypass it, but they're actually smarter than what you think. So sometimes
oh yes,
they would see, like he told me about stuff like Go and things that I didn't know about, and he was like, I saw some things that I should have never seen. So I didn't realize
mm,
you could bypass those settings. So I try and let parents know these sort of things because I see little 2-year-olds walking around with phones, and I understand it's an educational game, but at the same time, um, they I don't know if they put restrictions on their kids to say maybe you shouldn't be on the device for so long, you know.
well, this is a big topic in the UK at the moment, and Australia for that matter, where they have um, banned smartphones for I think it's under 16s
Yeah,
at school.
wasn't the smartphone thing for social media only, not to let them have, because I think the social media was cyberbullying and the risks and dangers for social media. I think it was, wasn't it social media, no one under 16 or
I think it was. I think the concern was social media, but I think what they've started to do is they've started to take the smartphones away and get them put into lockers before they go into class,
oh.
and that's being looked at in the UK at the moment. With it's because I mean I remember in 2018, 19, I mean during my lectures, and it was particularly the Chinese. The Chinese were probably the worst, but they'd come to lecture and they'd sit in the lecture hall, and I would be giving my lecture, and they'd be
But maybe
they'd
they
be
were
playing
taking
games.
notes. Weren't they taking
No,
notes?
oh
No.
no, 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 they weren't taking notes. And I tell you why, because they would always come up to me afterwards and said would demand that I gave them the notes to my lectures, or I gave them copies of the actual screen. They were not taking notes.
Oh. Oh, okay. Because the thing is, like when you look at the future of education, we always think how cool it would be if you could have a teacher in Tibet and you could be in wherever you are and be able to teach using VR in a way that's interactive. So that, but obviously more like, I don't know if you like any science fiction books or science fiction writers. Do you like science fiction?
Yep,
Do you know?
I like science. Well,
Do you know?
if you could look around this room, if you look around this room with all my science fiction collection of models and memorabilia,
Do you,
you'd know that I like science fiction.
who's your favorite author?
Um, Asimov
Okay.
always has been ever since the Foundation trilogy. It's been Asimov.
Okay. So because I'm more of a Philip K. Dick fan, and there's a story because he's the guy that did Minority Report. And a lot of the stuff that he spoke about, if you read the books that he wrote, he basically described holograms and holographic interfaces, or let's say the way we see it in Star Wars. They have a phone call, but it's actually a little 3D avatar. So
Mm,
that kind of
mm.
world kind of makes a lot more sense, where you'd have a virtual reality type of scenario where there wouldn't be any um, devices, no headsets, Um, so more like a mixed reality experience. But then if you look at that, you start wondering what are the dangers in having that, especially um, like you could have an AI generated version of of yourself as a teacher and never actually be in class because your
Mm,
avatar would be teaching. Then all the like, how would you know? Like, or let's say, how would we design in a better way so that you're not cutting away the human element? Because obviously, if we optimize with technology and make things a lot better, there's a lot of people that will lose their jobs. So you want to still keep the human element while advancing technology and making education still fun. So
yes.
do you think that there is a place for virtual reality in the education space when they already want to take kids' phones away?
Oh no, yeah, I definitely think there's a role in education. I mean, certainly some of the projects that we've taken into schools, all kinds of schools, all levels of schools. For example, heritage is my number one passion.
Is
So
that
being
the
able
train
to
one
take,
that you did? I think it was a train scenario. We were talking about the
yeah,
history of some train.
yes, there's that one, and there's also I mean, the back in 2020, we delivered a virtual reality recreation of a historic port in the southwest of England, where I was born in Plymouth, to show what it would have looked like on the day that the Mayflower sailed from England to the New World. And I think getting people in there and getting them, particularly if then you can take the children from the virtual world and take them out into the real world, equivalent, and get them to compare and contrast.
Mm,
So it's not only interactive, it also impacts on what they have on their doorstep. And I think heritage and history is in virtual reality is an incredibly powerful
mm.
technique. Not the only one. I mean, I think healthcare, mental well-being, anatomy, physiology, those kind of things, and maybe even some of the more abstract elements of teaching, such as physics, being able to carry out physics experiments that have some relevance to the real world, recreating that in virtual reality as well. So I
Because
think,
don't you think that would
again,
be better as a mixed reality type of experiment or experience? Because if you think about it, even the heritage one, you'd have, let's say you have a space that you're in, and you're looking at this through like a mixed reality, augmented reality view, you'd obviously be able to see it then from different perspectives because one space could have different historical meaning for different cultures or different groups. So you'd
mm,
be able to have that overlay because you can't really say this spot over here is that's the historical thing we're gonna name for this spot because it's different things to different people. But then also you look at the fact that a lot of the stuff that we want to do and we want to create, especially like here in my space, a lot of people don't have access to the right tools just to build what's in their imagination. So
mm,
it's like it's this frustrating process where everybody wants to make these things, but then at the same time, um, we have to make do with like paper prototypes.
yeah, yeah. That's still very common across the world. Uh, and certainly, I mean, UK virtual reality in education hasn't taken off for a number of reasons. A is expense. A lot of the schools cannot afford to buy even a Quest 3. They
Mm,
can, and what's the point of having one Quest 3 when you've got a class that's 20, 30 students?
mm,
But it's also there's a reticence of the teachers to learn. They always feel that the children may embarrass them because the children know more about the technology than the teachers do. So there's still a large number of hurdles to overcome to get
mm.
virtual reality accepted as a standard method of delivering the curriculum.
So
I
do you
think
think? Oh, sorry, go on.
no, go on.
Because the thing is, I always when I feel this heavy device, it just didn't feel great the first time I put it on and I waited my whole life to try on the set, so I was quite disappointed when I put it on. And then I started looking at redesigns for it, and then I thought logically this would have been the most make the most sense. But then I kept thinking, how would that make sense? Because in the old movies like your RoboCop and all those kind of things, then the interface is literally right here against the or they would have like what you call it? What do you call it? Contact lenses. They have like a contact lens or glasses that
Mm,
show the computer interface. And I kept thinking to myself, that doesn't seem realistic because it's too close to your eyes. Like, how are they going to do it so that it seems at a distance? And then once again, you back into that sort of holographic type of environment where you probably seen information that's personalized to you, so that as you walk
mm,
in, it would be more like the way beacons and stuff would work, where you would have information getting shown to you that's based on your context, but then at the same time you worry, how secure is that going to be? Like, what if it gets
mm.
hacked?
Well, I know, I mean, we look at the way, for example, AI and deep fakes are developing. To what extent what you're seeing in virtual reality, and who has designed that? Because I mean, one of the things that I find uh, in many aspects of virtual reality, and particularly
You okay?
heritage, is that you have to put some degree of your own interpretation onto what you're building in 3D. And
Mm,
sometimes you get that wrong, which is one of the reasons, again, in heritage, we like to take we like to involve, and this is important, we like to involve local people. If we do things like the railway, like Plymouth, we do a lot of work on Dartmoor in the southwest, but we always like to involve local people because we can put our own interpretation on something, and it would be wrong. And if you present that to local people, they will tell you that it's wrong. So it's
mm.
you have to get out of this mindset of thinking that you have the final say when it comes to developing content. You don't, which is again why human-centered design, which is my background, is so absolutely important. You have to involve the end users.
Yeah, no, that is very important for me. It's just that as I got older, because I was working on so many people's dreams for the last like 35 years or so, I figured now's my turn to actually work on the stuff that I know about. So I've been doing a lot of projects that are based on the context of the areas that I've grown up in and the things that I believe could be changed and how that could be better, because I figure from a user experience point of view and speaking to all the different community members, or the residents and the people that are either displaced or visiting or whatever, at least I'd have a
Mm,
broader sense, because I can actually see how an area has changed over like a 35-year period. So in a way, I think that's sort of allowed, but I know that makes me obviously very biased. But at the same time, do you think that it's like, let's say, when you want to create something better for, like, because you've done stuff for the government, or for like, yeah, for the public in well, sorry, private spaces, I mean public spaces, do you think that the best way to go about things, especially if you want to make things better for the broader community, is to maybe leave the space where you know everything, or you can see how the changes could be made better because you're so stuck in that bias, and then be somewhere else that's completely different, so that you can remove a sense of, what's the word, so that it doesn't become so personal for you? Or do you think it's better to work in a space where you do know you are the expert in that space because you have lived there? Because then it's not like going, because when you do research and you go to other communities and you want to try and help from a help in their spaces, it becomes a lot more difficult because you've got to first gain the trust of the community, because you're coming as an outsider trying to fix things. So no matter what solution you come up with everybody participating, somebody's always going to be unhappy because they're going to look at you as an outsider. So it's a catch-22.
I hear what you say. I think the important thing, from my experience, the most important thing to do when you're visiting new communities, and we've visited a lot of communities that are outside of my comfort zone, is don't sell them what you have already done. as being the ends of the story. You have to give them examples. So one of the things I learned from defense is that, and in the UK, the defense people have something they call capability concept demonstrators. Now, we've used those when I had a team, we used those that kind of approach for many, many years. So the idea is that you listen to somebody, you come up with something close, not necessarily perfect, but close, and then you show this to them and say, look, this is what you can do. This is the technology. This is what we can do from a context perspective and a content perspective. And what do you think? How can we change it? What do you want to see? And that applies to things, for example, like care homes and hospices for the elderly. We take, I mean, we take our little Vive Flow headsets, the really lightweight ones, and we let them have a try at flying in a Spitfire or being on the front of a train, as you may have seen, or being in the countryside. And when they get the idea, they then come back with suggestions.
Mm.
You know, for example, I would love to have you go to my grandchildren's house, do a 360 video, and so I can sit in the garden one last time and see the children playing around me. Okay, so we've shown them what's capable,
Mm.
but they then ask for specifics. Now that's fine if you can capture what they want using low cost um, things like 360 techniques. As soon as you have to start building things in 3D,
Yeah.
then it becomes more expensive. Although, as we found with the work that my son's doing for this space company, the online repositories, online sources of 3D models and 3D content now is much, much better than it was 30 years ago
Yeah, and there's a
when
lot of free options too. Yeah.
yes, it's perfect because so it may not be perfect, but you can buy these things and put them all together and then focus on the story. Don't
Mm.
focus on the technology, don't focus on the content too much, but build a story with the tools that you have.
So this is a little bit off topic, but it's just because it's of interest to me. Do you know anything about blue zones? Like countries where people live over 100?
No, they're called blue zones.
Yeah, so there's specific places around the world where people have done research to understand how it is that certain communities have managed to live past the age of 100. And I found it very
Hmm.
interesting because one of the main things was, oh, it says that I have to upgrade. I didn't realize that. Okay, well, we have 10 minutes, but I wanted to find out, is it a bit rude to ask me how old you are? Sorry.
Hmm.
How old are
Go
you?
on.
Sorry.
Me,
Hmm.
I'm nearly 68.
68. Okay. So, from your side of things, because like you still seem very happy and healthy, what is it that you found in your space, or let's say in your country, where they ensure that people over 60 stay young for as long as possible? Like to ensure neuroplasticity and they don't end up getting feeling like they because some countries where they've sort of put people aside and created elderly care facilities where they kind of separate them from society is generally where
Yeah,
people don't really do well. So the countries where they ensure people maintain their independence for as long as possible, or the countries that have blue zones, like where they live over 100, they generally do stuff that's more in tune with nature. With their
yeah,
hands, they walk more often, so they would rather be pedestrians than be driving. They would have a pet so that they're forced to walk the dog every single day so that instead of, just staying stationary. And then that started to make me worry that a lot of us in the tech space technically would have much shorter lives if we spend all our time on the computer. So is there any programs or any things that have been implemented in where you're from to ensure the longevity of everybody?
not it's I mean I certainly agree with what you say there. I mean what keeps me going is still being involved in projects like the space project, but also my wife and I have a little trailer or caravan in the West Country. So she and I will go down there by ourselves, and we can walk on the beach, we can walk on the moors, we can get the fresh air, we can see historical stuff,
Oh, no,
and just get and we can interact with other people, and it's being able to look forward to doing that, actually get excited about going away and doing that, rather than sitting down as we tend to do here and watch the watch the television. I think it's a lot of longevity is even with poor health, poor physical health. A lot to do with longevity is this: it's attitude, it's being happy, it's being mentally occupied, it's being able to play music, it's being able to art.
yeah,
So there's a lot of anecdotal evidence suggests that if you're involved in this, then you have a much richer lifestyle.
yeah.
But I mean, there aren't any government programs. There are one or two healthcare programs looking at, for example, exposing people of all ages to um, the coast and the sea, or the countryside and trees. Similar in Japan, things like forest bathing in Japan.
Okay.
Uh, and but there's it's so limited. It's not available to everybody.
Oh. Okay, so maybe that's an idea for some education there. But I'm very happy that you took some time to talk to me. I don't want to go over time because I have a habit of going off on a tangent and talking about a million different things. So I wanted to check, are you comfortable with us having
Me
a
too.
formal event where you can be our guest speaker? I can send you a link to show you the previous videos we've had and the previous guest speakers, if you like.
Yes, yeah, I would love to. I mean, we can maybe exchange emails and focus in on the exact topic or the
Okay.
exact topics. But yes, yeah, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay. And then there's also a few places that I know that would love um have you as a teacher or to have you as a course instructor. Is that something you're open to? And maybe in the email we can I'll ask you those questions and you can let me know what that would be like cost wise or how that could work if you have time.
Mm. It would be fantastic because I mean, another thing that keeps my brain going is being able to take my 45 years of being involved in human factors and then more over the last 4 decades in virtual reality and having worked in healthcare and defense and heritage and education. I've got all this stuff, I've got all this material, and it'd be just fantastic to be able to give that out and
If we put it together, it could be a book, it could be courses, it could be so many things. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. But there's just so much. I mean, I've got so much here, so much about the history of VR too. I've got so
yeah.
many journals and conference proceedings and magazines, and pictures and videos, all going back to the 1980s.
Yeah,
So I've
and I
got
mean, you don't
tons of
want,
stuff.
there's no point in people starting from scratch and trying to reinvent the wheel. So you already got the full archive. It would be a waste to not, to not put that in a suit in a format that can be shared.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. Okay, well, I'm glad we're on the same page. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any questions for me?
No question. Yeah, but where are you based?
Oh, I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh,
Um,
yes, I thought it was Johannesburg. Yes, I spent 3 very interesting days in Johannesburg. Maybe a decade or so ago. I spent 3 days. Were you ready for this? In Johannesburg morgue.
oh, how was it?
Horrible,
Sure,
horrible.
where was it? Like the main Joburg hospital or
Yeah,
what?
it was the main. Yeah, it was the well, the morgue. If I remember, the morgue was a separate building, but it was huge. I went there as part of the work I was doing for military medicine.
Sure.
But the professor of military medicine took me to Johannesburg, and I saw nothing of Johannesburg except the inside of the morgue for 3 days. It's
That's
like,
so scary.
oh, yeah,
So was it a whole lot of fridges of people
yeah,
or
yeah. And I I'll never forget what I saw, but I did wonder how. human beings could do that to other human beings, it was actually quite frightening. It was very frightening.
We have to have a follow-up conversation about this.
Yeah, yeah. I still have the pictures, but they're archived somewhere very secure.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
but I mean
still there.
that would be a great documentary actually, come to think of it,
Mm.
if
Oh
you're
yeah.
interested.
Oh yeah, I was interested. It's just what I learned and what I saw. Yeah, interesting.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time, and I mustn't forget your the time difference. Um, can I'll just pop you an email. I mean, I've got your email now, so then I'll just
Yeah,
send you just an update with some links that you can have a look at, and maybe if there's anything you want to share with me that you think would be good topics to go over, even if it's links to the websites that sorry, the your YouTube videos, then I can maybe
yes.
start thinking and planning on which topics to cover because I know
No,
there's a large community that they haven't even opened up books to start reading about this, let alone play with it. So
mm. Well, my YouTube site is one of the best places to go because I'm always building up on that. So all the healthcare work, the lectures I've done, defense projects. I mean, I'm trying to make that almost like a legacy
yeah.
YouTube site. So yeah,
And
keep
it's
looking for.
okay. Is it okay if I share those kind of videos online with others, like via like my social media marketing? I'll always credit you, of course, but I would like to share your content across all my different
Yeah,
channels.
yes, of course. Please,
Okay.
yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Lovely to meet you, and we will talk again.
Oh, and by the way, my name is not this way, not that way, she's way, in case.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the, yeah, just wait. Yeah.
Okay,
All right, you
thank
take care.
you too. Bye
Thank you. Bye.
bye.